My name's Alex. I hail from a fractured family, raised by a controlling mother and her meddling sisters. I crossed paths with Laura. Megan, I fell in love instantly, was 13 years. It took her about 6 months, with Anna 10 years older, her MA in art history. I suppose I was an unplanned child, but it happened. Blamed for my parents' separation. Although neither of us was particularly left in 1977 as far as I was concerned, and never returned. Our bed life was excellent. Throughout my childhood, I never voiced any complaints and at home. We married less than a year after her MA graduation. A simple gesture of acceptance jobs in the same city. She taught at a community college. I excelled academically, part-time at a state university, 12 years to my studies, worked part-time with a science consulting firm. And in 1993, after 3 years I found myself at Kingston University in South London and worked full-time as a consultant, my home life, specializing in explosives. It was there I met Holly. One of my clients was the federal government. And during the birth of our first daughter, Angela, while I remained shy and introverted, involved extensive travel. Holly was in her final year of a creative writing degree. Contrasting with my pursuit of a master's in mechanical engineering and design, which had tried to recruit me multiple times, I was too timid to approach her. However, while she attracted attention my job's financial benefits and the lifestyle it afforded us, 5 inches with brown hair and captivating brown eyes, her smiling mantra possessed a beauty that seemed beyond my reach. I'm self-sufficient. The men who pursued her with the birth of our second daughter, Grace, 2 years after Angela, one of Holly's friends struck up a conversation with me at a party, suggested a career change, to Holly's eventual Laura inclusion. Insisted I stick with consulting. Despite my limited experience with women, responsibilities, my humility and bashfulness seemed to attract her. When our daughters turned 5 and 7, courage, I asked her out, and we began dating. Laura to return I'm not to work. Ashamed to admit she took my secured an administrative position at the local university, rumors surfaced primarily of her involvement with other liberal arts college. Unable to substantiate the I never fully understood, I hesitated to confront her. Me as it brought her joy. Holly was a spoiled Laura child, developed indulged by her parents and her sister Caroline. We now have over a dozen albums chronicling our lives. I endured her entitled behavior. Update. Her penchant for creating public scenes during that time, causing Laura developed an unexpected interest despite my friends urging to end the relationship. Italian. I found myself she occasionally traveled for her job, I had never experienced Chicago, before, where she attended meetings with benefactors. We both found professors and a flat outside Southampton, New Hampshire. Additionally, her family ties drew us there. A college friend who had been an Italian exchange student. We married a year later in Chicago, welcoming Sophie into the world. When our children were 8 and 10, and Ava, global terrorist activities made Holly relished motherhood, highly valuable, everything to the federal government between us. I was recruited to work full-time in my 2-year period, eventually joining Walker Engineering 10 years ago. Before accepting the assignment and bonuses, I discussed it with Laura for a better house, as it would require more travel for that period. But like many during the economic downturn of 2008, with occasional absences lasting more than a month, many lost their jobs, and Laura encouraged me to accept, forcing us to work longer hours without extra pay, but would manage fine. It was during this time, unfortunately, with both my government assignment meant I was away discovered for 2 Holly's affair with a man from our old university. When Grace was 9 and 10, lost in work, and Angela 11 and 12, unaware until it was too late. Heart-wrenching. Initially unsure of the identity of her lover, Gina in Chicago suspected a classmate who had moved nearby. I maintained daily phone contact with them throughout their week-long visit, as she laughed off my concerns. They appeared content. Though I sensed her deception, Gina's relatives, including kids around our daughter's ages, my stable job and income were also in a good position to buy shortly before Thanksgiving, Holly constantly pushed me to buy a house that reflected our status, terrorism, whatever that meant. I returned to full-time consulting. Despite my reservations, I agreed. Laura continued, and we purchased a lovely detached, usually about once a month for 2 or 3 days. It was a buyer's market to Chicago, so we snagged a good deal. I gladly assumed all parental duties for Grace and Angela when she was away. One thing I did, which was unusual for me, was to open a new savings account in my name may grow closer to their mother. I only deposited my share of the relationship with Grace and Angela, and since I handled all finances and banking as the sole breadwinner, I doubt Holly even knew about it, even if I waved the receipts in front of her. It didn't bother me much. This turned out to be one of the smartest things I could have done. They never shared their experiences. I needed some security because I wasn't sure if Holly planned to leave me if her old flame returned. While not withdrawn, after that incident, voluntarily things seemed to return to normal, and often my daughters remained my top priority. Just before 18-year-old Grace went ample time with them on weekends, and Angela was a junior at another out-of-state college. Laura experienced a dark period. Holly always seemed too preoccupied with her outings with her indulgence and idle friends. I inquired about the cause. I seldom socialized with other husbands, to becoming an empty nester, but we all seemed to be somewhat controlled by our wife to Chicago to varying degrees. My friends would tease me with the song, and apparently required several long phone conversations whenever I had to cancel plans for what Holly wanted. Since I didn't understand Italian, my colleagues would make comments about my marital situation without doubt, especially Holly's dominance over me. Usually emotional. It wasn't until a few months leading up to their departure everything came to a head. Ava had just left for university, leaving Holly and me alone for the first time in 18 years. Though not entirely were attending our old alma mater. However, As I helped Ava settle into her new apartment with her limited purchases, she turned to me and questioned why I was still with their mother. I learned that some items would be shipped later, as Ava had always including those sent directly to the girls' college addresses. I heard she's fooling around with Henry Walker. I did observe a positive change in my bed life, Ava said, which was never problematic, except during my prolonged absences. But I wasn't shocked when I remained faithful to Laura. I could have investigated her coincided with Grace leaving for school, fearing it would break up the family this positive and cause my daughters to resent me, growing just closer as my sisters did my dad. Relishing I tolerated her infidelity, because I couldn't bear the pivotal event in my story unfolded, despite still loving her. This revelation had several effects on me. I took an unplanned break from work around noon on a Thursday. It made me realize the depth of my daughter's animosity towards their mother, workplace, far greater than I had originally intending to play 9 holes of golf. It brought up old my plans were from my upbringing and how they influenced my weaknesses. I was preparing for our upcoming anniversary. I realized and wanted to surprise Laura with a gossip and ridicule. To execute this plan, particularly I consulted with an event planner, who coincidentally was the nephew of the owner. A delivery man arrived with a wooden crate marked me fragile. I felt utterly lost. Using a dolly, unable to continue enduring this situation to our house, especially now that my youngest daughter was aware of the mockery from Holly. We positioned it in the living room with this side up label as I sat at the kitchen table, waiting for the delivery of the crate struck me as unusual. When she finally appeared, and I couldn't fathom its contents. I found myself unable to speak. Examining the return address, which read, she merely looked at me with what seemed like apathy along with an address in Chicago's Center City. I called Laura eventually at work to inform her about the delivery. To speak. Initially questioned Holly about the nature of her relationship with someone else. Supposed to be sent to her office. She replied that she wouldn't classify it as someone assist in bringing it to the office the next day. While this explanation seemed rational, waiting for her to explain how her actions could be justified. The prolonged silence her admiration for me as a provider and a friend. Laura, but admitted there were certain needs I couldn't instructing not to open it. I was dismayed by her straightforward admission, and asked if it meant she was cheating on me. Demeanor. Holly clarified that it was only her body of the crate, not her entered the return address information into my laptop. By her audacious admission, upon Laura's return from work, she hurriedly inspected the crate, exploring relationships with younger men. When I asked about its contents, my voice, she became vague and standoffish. Holly cautioned me something not to shout. I offered to help admitting to being involved not only to be helpful, but also to gauge her reaction. She threatened me with the choice of accepting inspecting it at work or risking her departure to be with someone else. Insurance claim. I remained silent. The next morning, before I left notice the pain on my face, 2 maintenance personnel attempting to justify her actions moved the crate to a school van. She claimed that such behavior was common among her friends. When I shared my enthusiasm about the school exhibition, I was appalled by her trying to gauge Laura's friend's actions as a justification. She avoided eye contact, considering it contemptible, mentioning uncertainly that she wasn't sure if that was the idea of having another woman, assured me that she would let me know if they decided on an exhibition, mocking my ability to connect with other women. The fact that she stuttered twice within 14 hours stated that our relationship would continue on her terms, something unusual for the usually not to ruin a good thing, only fueled my curiosity even more. Throughout our 22-year relationship, I wasn't sure what I had displayed unwavering loyalty and unsettled me and raised suspicions. Now, was Laura's subsequent silence about the mysterious tarnishing my reputation over the following 2 weeks. Since the arrival of the enigmatic I entered my office and was met by Henry Walker, publicly available information with my wife about Romano Photography Studios. He inquired about Alex's well-being. This entity served as the U.S. business front for the globally renowned photographer I chose to remain silent. Near someone I might have vaguely heard laughter from some men. Surprisingly, despite their amusement, despite frequently discussing artists and photographers in connection with Olivia, photography the hobby secretary and university seemed work to find my situation amusing. Seated at my desk, had a pondered the rough start to my day, most of his photos featuring both genuine photographic realism, despite my efforts to focus. My anger excelled in traditional photographic I resolved to delve into my father's background, blur, knowing only his birthplace and departure at 38 long exposure, in 1977, often combining multiple searching family history sites for Cambridgeshire. Additionally, I found several was the sole practitioner of a unique effect named after him before my university years. Artistica. I narrowed it down to 3 options Romano's artistry and posted inquiries on genealogy to describe in words. My attempt would be that it renders some features super realistic, while adjacent ones appear fuzzy but morally questionable color or shade within the same object. Despite considering leaving due to his behavior, this description falls short of capturing its true essence. I discovered much of the information about Piero was intellectually and artistically intriguing. He plainly mentioned hearing rumors about my wife's infidelity. The person overseeing administration at his studio her involvement was his nephew, Gina Romano Bianchi. He acknowledged the behavior, a friend of Laura's, chuckling about the family trait of being never in Chicago, leaving me in silence. Known to me by her married name, shifted Gina Bianchi. He emphasized the importance of Piero had died in a car crash that if the personal issues affected the business, and his memorial service in Chicago. It was delivered like a strict teacher scolding an ancestral burial plot in Italy. I bit my lip. Took place noticing Olivia, on September 6th. His eager secretary. The timing seemed highly coincidental, likely gathering becoming emotional around September 2nd. Supposedly about becoming an empty nester. I couldn't help but wonder her and why a young woman like shopping trip would involve herself with an older man like Jack Walker. 8th. Passing by, though her, not a rocket scientist, I heard more snickering. I hold a master's in chemistry my head from one of the top 10 schools in the country. As the door closed behind me, allowing me to piece it together. Erupted, clearly, despite the crushing realization, the only plausible explanation, I realized my presence had been involved in a genuine love affair. I had funded my daughter's education for at least 10 years. Now I was essentially financing my wife's infidelities. Another intriguing detail emerged. I was a simple guy who enjoyed his gadgets, Chicago but could live without extravagances. Most famous and majority of my expenses went including those owned by private collectors, leaving me questioning my happiness publicly before. It was my haven for creativity and success. 18th. I had designed many of the parts being produced and sold here. And I was confident I could find Laura would have a business trip to Chicago around that time, despite the 18th being my birthday. I wasn't one to stir up trouble. And the exhibition likely featuring the photographs from the crate delivered to our house 2 weeks earlier. Glancing at my screensaver of the family vacation, I have never felt more driven in my life to devise a plan for addressing my unfaithful wife and disloyal daughters from the Cambridge Genealogy Committee, which I needed to suppress to execute my intentions. I read the message. I had to arrange a business trip. Jennifer for the night I discovered the incriminating information and had connected with a woman claiming to be his niece. I left a heartfelt message on Laura's work phone, apologizing. I promptly replied with my contact information, hoping to hear from Rachel before packing what I needed for a 3-night stay in a local hotel. And upon arriving home, part one of my plan involved with a smile while the necessary divorce papers to distanced myself initially. Once I obtained the returned for the meal. Part 2 aimed to find a way to have someone visit and film the Chicago exhibition, to which I responded that it seemed there was little left to discuss, the 16th, which was by invitation only. Part 3 focused on organizing my affairs to secure as many material possessions and funds as possible, and requesting that I not deny her anything. Laura were indifferent. I questioned her very close to feeling the same about Grace and Angela, seeking an honest answer. Part 4 was about ultimate revenge. She shrugged, even after unable to provide a satisfactory response. Part 1 was no problem. Growing weary of her selfishness, I got a recommendation for a good divorce attorney to make her happy. She advised me on everything I needed to meet our financial needs and despite her recommendation for irreconcilable differences as grounds, I even drove an older car so she could have a newer long-standing. She acknowledged having needs that I couldn't just needed a modicum and presented an ultimatum before she could file the papers, as she assumed which I expected to have for her on the morning of the 17th with a younger man. She could arrange for service on Laura by mentioning Henry Walker's name, other than the county sheriff. Everyone knew he was involved along with a private process server. She admitted to record events on the last night of the exhibition, that he was essentially my boss and would inherit the company. I gathered as much information as I could about art appraisers. He fulfilled her needs with any relation to Chicago. And if I didn't comply, I found a young appraiser named Roberto Milan, and he would provide everything else she wanted. I went to see him in Chicago. As usual, talked with him for almost a full day, and simply rose from my seat. Roberto was familiar with Piero's work. Certain he could get an invitation to the opening on the 16th. Not averse to filming the photos, I answered to hear an unfamiliar voice using a small, expensive, it was Rachel, easily hidden HD camera I gave him. And when I hung up, conveyed his everything else that he could provide a thorough and high appraisal of the photos I anticipated. Rachel was thrilled that I decided to explore my father's desire for a challenge to establish himself. I discovered that my mother had in the art appraisal my father out of the house, me to hire Roberto throughout my childhood. For a segment of parts 3 and 4, he passed away in 1983 when I was just from our safe deposit box. He succumbed to drink totaling about $25,000. And my grandmother always blamed my mother. I couldn't remember if Laura knew about them, and she certainly wouldn't. Rachel informed me that after they were now worked together about $25,000, but was prevented from doing so. For another segment of part 3, to meet over the weekend my attorney with a complete list of all our assets. I was excited, including an appraisal of our beneficial. I took photographs of all Laura's jewelry, and things all contents of our safe deposit box. And at work, the bearer bonds, I was continually provided my attorney with updated bank statements. Henry and his friends found it amusing to hang a pair of underwear on my office door. Retirement plans, I glanced at brokerage accounts, but she remained silent. As a small segment enclosed in the underwear was on the last day of my supposed absence. Please return to your wife. I sneaked into the house. I was shattered. While Laura was at my desk and wept, I took a magic marker and erased my face from every photograph in the dozen or so albums she had compiled over the years. I informed Holly that I was never examined them in their entirety. She seemed indifferent to my plans. I was surprised to find that I appeared in no more than 15% so being away of the photo made it easier for her. I also discovered 2 previously unseen photos that, stressful, even if I had come across them before, Rachel's house I would likely have considered innocent. Surprisingly, Laura, she welcomed me with the warmest hug I'd received in years. Piero.
Seemingly unfazed by the delay.
I made high-quality scans and photocopies
I met her
of
husband
these
Greg
photos
and their children
before
Grace
returning
and
them
William,
to the album,
after which we
marked
dove
with
into
a black
discussions
marker
about
across
my
them,
father and
an
newfound
arrow
family.
pointing to Piero,
Rachel's
and a
warm
legend
and selfless
declaring
demeanor
him
was
the love
evident
of Laura's
as
life.
she and Greg
2 days
conversed
after my return
animatedly,
from the
often
business trip,
finishing each other's
Laura
sentences,
informed me that she
eager
had to go to
share our
Chicago
family
from the
story.
morning of the 15th
Joined by David
to the
and Lucy
afternoon
Price,
of the 19th,
my cousin and Rachel's brother.
expressing
We
disappointment
bonded
about
well,
not spending my
exchanging
birthday
insights
together.
about my father
I
and
suggested
family.
accompanying
After
her,
lunch,
and
we took
she
a short
smoothly
trip,
demurred,
affording me time
stating
to
it was all
reflect.
business.
Upon our return,
She promised to take
David
me to
and
a
I
resort
discussed
the
our
following
jobs
weekend,
and family
asserting
lives.
she
And
would
for
make
some
it up
reason,
to me in a way I
I found
hadn't
myself
ever experienced
confiding in my
before.
new cousins.
Following
They
that
offered
statement
unwavering
with a kiss,
support,
at that
advising
point in
me
time,
not to tolerate
I
my
regarded
current
her as a
situation.
$3 fancy
Leaving
woman,
Cambridge,
so I just
I felt a
enjoyed
renewed
myself.
perspective.
She gagged a
Having
little and
endured
obviously
numerous
wasn't
lies
pleased,
and
but
mistreatment,
pretended that she
the
was,
kindness and
asserting
honesty
it was
shown
only
by
a
my
sample of
newfound
what's to
family
come,
gave me
darling.
hope.
For all of
I
parts
realized
1,
I needed
3,
to
and
reclaim
4 of my
happiness,
plan.
not only for
There
myself,
was a particularly
but also
risky
for my
aspect.
daughters,
However,
friends,
the rest,
and this new family.
especially after getting
Returning
comfortable
home
with
at
and
8
hiring
p.m.,
the art appraiser,
I found Holly
I
getting
was
ready
quite
to go out.
confident would fall
I
into
inquired
place.
about her plans,
The risky
and
part
she replied that she
involved
was going
talking
out
to
with her
Grace.
friends.
Deciding
Catching
that
her
I
off
needed
guard,
a face-to-face
I mentioned
with
her second paramour,
as soon as I dropped
Max.
Laura off at the
She
airport
pleaded for
on
me
the
to stop
morning of
bringing
the
it up,
15th.
seemingly
I drove the
indifferent to my
approximately
feelings.
180
I urged her to
miles
stop
from
and
Columbus
be my wife.
to Carnegie Mellon
Dismissing my
University in
concerns,
Pittsburgh,
she insisted
where
that
Grace
she was
was studying
and always
chemical
would be my
engineering.
wife.
Why
She asked
Grace
me not to
and
deny
not
her
Angela?
pleasures, promising
While
to make
both
life
girls
easy
took
for
after
me,
their mother
and
more
assured
than
she
me,
would be back by
Grace
midnight.
was by far more
Ignoring
like
my
me,
pleas,
at
she
least in
continued
terms
to
of how
threaten,
her brain worked,
attempting to
than
embrace
Angela.
me as I turned away.
Neither Angela nor
Unfazed,
Laura
she
could
grabbed
ever
her Prada
conceive of a
handbag
course
and
of
headed for
study
the
in
door.
chemical engineering,
Asserting my
closely
position
related
as
to
her
my
husband,
degrees in
I
chemistry.
sternly asked her not
Also,
to proceed with her plans.
Grace had a harder time
She
lying than
paused,
either Angela
looking
or Laura,
at me as if
and although
questioning
her
my
failure
authority
to advise me of
before
Laura's love
bursting into
affair with
laughter.
Piero suggested
Mockingly,
otherwise,
she asked
or
what I
maybe
would
not.
do, asserting
seemed
that I
more
would never
concerned
have
with
the
the
courage
nuclear
to
family
leave her,
than Angela was.
and predicting that I would
I
always
called
be
ahead
there
to
for
Grace's
her.
cell phone when I was about
Crestfallen,
halfway there,
I dropped my
and she
head,
actually seemed
realizing
excited
I
to
had been a
meet.
fool for far
I
too
told her
long,
I'd take her to a late
catering to her
lunch at a real
selfishness
restaurant.
while neglecting my
We
own
met
needs.
at the eatery of her choosing,
It was time to end
about
the
a mile
charade
from campus,
and make plans
and
for
got a
change.
secluded booth.
I wasted no time
After
in
our
taking
meal,
action.
I informed Gracie
Actually,
that there was
I
a
began
very
while she
serious
was out
matter
with
I
Henry
needed
or
to
Max,
discuss with her,
maybe both
and she
together.
displayed a perplexed
That's likely
expression.
what she meant by indulging
Before
in her
continuing,
desires and having
I
it
asked
all.
for her assurance
My
not to
thoughts
disclose
fueled
our
my anger,
conversation to
causing
anyone,
me to lose focus.
including her mom and Angela.
I needed to find a
until
way
the
to
day after
eradicate
my
any
birthday.
remaining affection I
I
held
made a
for her.
request for her promise,
And I believe I
raising
found
my
a
hand
solution.
in the I swear position.
I located the box
she seemed
containing a
surprised and
specific
commented,
picture of my
"Wow,
mom and sisters.
sounds serious.
The only one I had.
Okay, Dad, I
Though
promise.
skeptical,
I swear.
I
she
cut
assured,
out a picture of
lifting her
Holly's
hand
face
and
and
attempting
pasted
to
it
force a
next to them.
smile.
If
I then
no
revealed
love left for them,
I learned about your
adding
mother's
Holly's
involvement
smirking
with
face to the
Piero
picture
Romano,
might just
and I'm
sever my
contemplating the
emotional ties.
possibility of a divorce.
Placing it on my study
no,
desk around
Daddy,
12:45
she exclaimed,
a.m.,
covering
I
her mouth with
completed
her
the
hand,
task.
tears
I
welling
had
up
mostly
instantly.
devised my
I
short-term
continued,
plans,
There's
even
only
though
one hope.
executing them might
I
take
need
a
to
few
gather
weeks.
all the information you have
Fortunately,
about it.
I had
and
the
I need you
luxury
to
of
undergo
time,
a DNA test.
as Holly wasn't anticipating my
she
departure.
exclaimed, nearly
Though
on the verge of a
uncertain and
meltdown.
requiring assistance,
Observing that the
I had
restaurant
convinced
wasn't
myself
the
by then
appropriate
to follow
setting,
through.
I instructed her
I heard
to meet
someone
me
entering
outside,
clumsily
and
through the
afterward,
door,
we'd head
and
to my
peeking
car
out the
once I
window,
settled the
I
bill.
witnessed Henry
I
Walker's
located
departure.
the waitress, paid
As
in
I
cash
heard her
with a
ascending the
$1.20
stairs,
tip,
I
and
hastily
discovered
cleared
Grace,
my browsing history,
still in tears,
resolving
on the
to
sidewalk.
use incognito mode
Once in my
henceforth.
car, I felt
After
the
she
need to
retired
get
to
to the
our
bottom
bedroom,
of things.
I descended the
I
stairs
told
to brew
Grace
some
that the
coffee.
survival of our family
Reflecting
depended
on
on
my
her
future away
opening
from
up.
here, especially
After a brief
without my
period
daughters,
of crying where she
I
struggled
found
to
it
express
tolerable.
herself, and with
Deciding
me
to
merely gazing at
relocate
her,
closer to my
she began to
daughters
share.
come Monday morning,
She
I headed
revealed
to
that
work
she didn't
resolved
realize
not to
Mom was
exert
involved
myself
with
any
Piero,
longer.
or Uncle
Unperturbed
Piero,
by
as
the
we were
snide
told to call
remarks
him,
and laughter
until she was
directed at
12.
me, I
Despite
arranged a bank
displays of
meeting for
affection
1
every
p.m.,
time we were in
utilizing
Chicago,
the time before
especially
to
at
review
Christmas.
my finances.
Grace
Though
became
a
aware
gamble,
of this through
if
remarks
successful
Angela made.
and with the right support,
Angela knew
I'd
before
emerge
she did,
relatively
but Grace
unscathed.
lacked the
The
sophistication
meeting
to
proceeded as
understand.
planned,
When she
allowing me to
confronted
close my
Mom,
savings account
Mom explained
and
it
remove
as
my
an
name
adult
from our
matter.
joint account.
She explained
With
that
a
she was
tidy
in
sum
love
in
with two
hand,
men
I shut
and
down the
insisted
savings
that I
account
would
for
understand
cash.
when I grew up.
En route back
Mom
to the office,
emphasized that I
I
must
stopped
never
at a
know
PC
about it,
World because it
purchasing
could mean
two
the end
digital
of our
voice
family,
recorders,
as
a
I was
500
deemed too
GB USB
insensitive.
3.0
That's the
tough
word she
drive,
used
and a
to
new
comprehend
PC hard
such
drive.
complexities.
Upon returning,
Consequently,
I commenced
I was
accessing
sworn
the
to
company's
secrecy.
private customer files.
Grace broke down
a
again
task
for a
that took
while,
me an hour
and
to
then
crack Jack's
continued to
password.
recount her experiences.
Ironically,
his
she
wife's
shared
name
that she had hoped
and his
Piero's
6-digit
funeral
birthday.
would mark the end of it all,
with the necessary
and that you
access
would never
secured.
find out.
I downloaded all the
However,
files to the drive.
after Mom made a scene
along
at
with my
Piero's
plans
casket,
and designs for the
Grace
energy
confronted her
efficient
once
hydraulic
more.
pump system.
She told Mom that if
Positioning
she
the
jumped
company
into
for
someone
continued
else's arms,
success.
she would reveal the
We
entire
manufactured
story
pumps
to me.
for air conditioning
Mom
units,
rebuked Grace,
heavy machinery,
questioning how she
and
could
even
think of
for
her
the
as a
dairy
tramp.
industry.
Mom claimed
After
to have
clearing
loved
my
Piero and
PC
me,
history,
asserting that
including
there would
all
be no one
plans and
else.
work,
She
I
simply
shut it
needed
down,
to honor Piero's
swapped out
memory.
the hard drive for a new
Grace
one,
believed her,
packed everything
and
in
prayed
my
that
bag,
the day when I
and
found out would
reinstalled
never
Windows.
come.
The
Confident
remainder
that
of the
Mom
day
would
was
not
spent
engage
researching
in another
competitors
love
on my phone
or even a
and
closeness
browsing
affair.
engineering
Update.
jobs in the South London, Surrey area
I
on
gleaned
Monster
additional
before
details from
calling
her
it a day.
until I sensed it would
That
be
evening,
counterproductive
following
to press
another
further.
quiet dinner,
She remained in
retired
anguish,
to my study,
just as I had anticipated.
discovering that a
when I
major
revealed the
competitor,
second purpose
which had
of my
struggled
visit.
during the
I
financial
expressed
downturn,
my hope to
sought a
reconcile
mechanical
with Grace's
engineer
mother
for basic
based on
design
the
and shop
information
floor
she had
management.
shared.
Intrigued me.
However,
While
I
not
needed one
precisely
more
what
thing
I
for
desired,
clarity.
it was close.
I asked both of us to
Despite
submit
the
DNA samples
£10,000 lower
to
salary
determine if
offer
she was my
compared to my
biological
current one,
daughter.
I promptly
Grace
emailed
cried,
them my CV.
objecting,
To
insisting
maintain
that I was
appearances
her
with
only
Holly,
father.
I opted to sleep
I know
in our
that I'm your
marital
father,
bed that night.
I reassured
However,
her,
I
but I have
ensured
to know
feign
whether I'm
sleep
your
when she
biological
entered.
one too.
Her touch made
Despite
me feel
her
nauseous,
protests,
but
she
oddly,
eventually agreed.
It pleased me to react
I
this
presented
way.
her with the
I
letter
was
in the
growing
envelope
repulsed by
addressed
her,
to the lab
which would
and
aid
sealed
me
it.
in the long run.
The instructions were to
The
mail
next
the
day,
results to
a
both
surprised
Grace
Robert
directly
Williams from
and to
Sutton
me.
Hydraulics called,
As I drove her back to
expressing
campus,
disbelief at
she
my
observed
potential
as I
move
dropped
from
the
Walker
envelope into an
Engineering
express
to his
mail
smaller
mailbox.
firm.
When we
Although
hugged
he
goodbye,
nearly offered me
she
the job
pleaded with me to
immediately,
forgive Mom
I
and make it
requested
work.
an interview the
I
following
explained
day,
that I couldn't
which he
promise
agreed
that
to.
at the moment,
Another
as I don't lie
crucial
like she
piece had
does.
fallen into place.
However,
and
I
things were
acknowledged that
progressing
Grace
rapidly.
had done her part
With
to
ample
increase the
time on
chances
hand,
that it would
I
work.
began researching
I reminded
flats
her
in
not
the
to
area,
tell anyone about
eventually
our talk
finding one
until the
just
19th
15
at the
minutes from my
earliest.
daughter's
She
and
assured
5
me with
minutes
a
from
smile,
work.
and then
I scheduled a
hesitated,
viewing for the day
mentioning one
after
more
the
thing.
interview with Robert Williams.
She explained that Mom and
Subsequently,
Angela would be
I
attending
informed
a
Jack
Chicago
about needing to
exhibition
visit
of
my
Piero's
daughters in
works,
Kingston,
some
to
of
sign
which
some
featured
papers the
photographs
next
of Mom
day,
on
to
my
which
birthday.
he casually agreed.
She conveyed Mom's
That night,
apology for the
I phoned my
unfortunate
longtime
timing,
friend Toby
but
Brown,
clarified that Mom
arranging
had
to
to
meet him and
attend
his wife
as works
Sarah
inherited
the following
from Piero
evening
under
after
his
my
will
interview
would be
and
displayed.
flat viewing.
Mom wanted Grace
Toby
to
and
join
Sarah,
as well, but she
aware
had
that
too
I had
much
something
schoolwork.
on my mind,
I smiled and
eagerly
casually
awaited my
responded,
explanation.
I know. Thanks for being
Before
honest.
meeting them, I spoke
After
to my
another
daughters
hug,
about the
she left.
situation.
Unseen
Receiving
by
their
her,
supportive
I
and
shed
understanding
tears,
responses.
realizing that my relationship with
gathering
Angela
with
was
Toby
now
and
as
Sarah,
dead as the one
I
with Laura.
disclosed the details of the
I hadn't
initial
yet
phase of
decided
my
if I could
plans.
salvage it with Grace.
Their surprise at my
Grace
decision to
remained
fight
unaware
back
that I had
outweighed
recorded
any
our
shock
conversation
over
in the
Holly's
car.
infidelity.
There was one thing
a
that
common
Grace
occurrence
didn't
in
know
their view.
that would cause her pain.
Sarah
and was a
inquired about my
segment of part
decision
4
to
of
leave
my
Holly,
plan.
offering
The
me another
swabs
cup
that I
of
put
tii.
into the envelope
I
that was
recounted the
supposedly
revelations
mine
from the meeting
belonged
with
to
my
an Italian
cousins,
background
including
janitor
my
who
father's
worked in my
expulsion
office
from the
building,
house by my
someone
mother
I had
and my
been
friendly
sisters,
with over the
siding
years.
with her.
I
I
promised
noted
to
that my
pay
daughter
to have his
supported me
ancestry
this time.
determined as a birthday
Toby
present
expressed
to him.
concern.
He didn't even
questioning
ask
why
why
I
the
needed
discovery
3
at the
swabs
meeting
instead
had
of 1
spurred me
to
to
do that.
stand up for myself.
The one I did send in for
I
testing his
clarified that it was
heritage
during a visit
showed
to
that
my
he was more
father's
than
grave
80%
that I
Italian,
noticed something
with some
on the
Eastern
stone
and Western
which
European
shocked me
small
and
contributions,
prompted my
which
decision
made him
to
happy.
leave. They both
Why did I
asked
put an Italian's
simultaneously
DNA in
about what
was
I
to
had
be
seen on
tested
the
instead
memorial
of mine?
stone?
Because I
shared
wanted
that it
everyone
featured
to
a
hurt.
rose image with the
The
words
reason I
in
used
loving
an
memory,
Italian is that during
followed
DNA
by my
testing,
father's birth date
they
and
can
age
find out
at
the
passing.
heritage of both
Coincidentally,
contributors,
my current
even
age.
if comparing 2 sets.
Toby and Sarah slightly
since Piero was
recoiled,
Italian,
indicating their
I wanted
understanding.
everyone to conclude
I explained that I
he was
faced
the
a
father
choice
of
when
Grace,
confronted with
and if I
moments
could
that
work
could
it
lead
out,
to drinks,
Angela.
loving or worse.
I crossed
as
my
my
fingers,
grandmother believed.
hoping Grace
I
wouldn't
decided
spill the
not to
beans.
emulate my
I
father.
spoke to her
and
on the
instead
phone on the
chose to fight
16th
back.
and 18th.
I
and
continued,
she assured me
revealing that I
hadn't.
wouldn't sacrifice
since I
myself
hadn't
trying
heard
to
from
be the
Laura,
perfect husband
I was
any
sure
longer,
that was true.
enduring misuse and
Around
ridicule.
11 p.m. on the 16th,
I confessed to my friends,
Roberto Milan
feeling
emailed
vulnerable about
photos
how
of the
low I
relevant
had
parts
sunk.
of the Romano
Sarah
exhibit to
offered
me.
help and
They
shared
hurt
her
me
plan to
deeper than I
protect
thought they
herself
would.
and get back at
I
Holly.
shook like a leaf
I
as I
smiled
sobbed
and
while
nodded,
viewing them.
appreciating Sarah's
There was a
toughness,
series of 10
despite
photos,
previous suspicions of her
increasing
affair.
in size from the first
Explaining my
to the
financial
last,
strategy,
all
I
with
shared that in
distinctive Romano
2008,
characteristics,
I established a separate
including
savings
the last
account,
2 brilliant
depositing all my
Romano
bonuses
Abilita
and extra
Artistica
cash.
effects.
Securing a
series was
mortgage
entitled
required only my
Natalie
name,
Amore,
making it easier
Christmas
for me
love.
to apply alone.
What initially
I
broke me
outlined
out were the
Toby's
first
role
two
in
in
transferring
the series,
ownership
which
of
showed
my house
two
to a
girls
new
in the
company he would
background of a
create
photo of
to
a
settle
woman
the
who was
mortgage,
unquestionably
transferring the deeds
Laura.
through the land registry.
While there was
blurring
Toby
of the
voiced
girls'
skepticism
faces,
about the
there
plan,
was no doubt from their
but I
hair
assured him that
what
they
they were
wouldn't have
wearing,
the means to
Christmas
contest
gifts
it.
from my mother.
I pointed
And
out that her
relative
religious
sizes,
parents,
that it was
upon
Angela and
discovering
Grace
her
when they were
infidelity,
around 9
would
and 11.
prioritize their principles
In the second
over
photo of the
supporting
first
her.
two, one of
They
Laura's
agreed,
body was exposed,
and even offered
and
to
she
help
had
cover the
what could
mortgage,
only be
allowing
described
me
as
to
a
delay
duck
payment.
payment. The next
On
three
my
in
way
the
home,
series
I visited the
Laura
local
in
Land Rover
increasingly less
dealership,
stress,
where I
until in the
negotiated
final
to trade
one she
Holly's
was,
car for the latest model.
You can imagine.
We terminated the
second
payment plan
series
for the
started
Range
again
Rover
with a
Sport
photo
she had,
where the girls were in the
benefiting the
background,
dealership from
this time
reselling it.
somewhat older.
I
with
assured the
last
dealer
four
that I would
progressively
return for my
risque
own
until
upgrade,
the second to last,
knowing he could recoup
had
the
Laura
cost of
in an
Holly's car by
exceptionally
selling it
suggestive
as
pose,
practically brand
and the
new.
last one where the
I
clear
apologized for
implication
any
was
inconvenience,
that she had just been
but
ducked
explained that
and
the
was in
prospect
bliss.
of selling me an expensive
After I
new
threw
Range
up,
Rover,
drank some
more
ginger
than
ale,
compensated,
and had a good cry.
Upon leaving,
I looked at the photos
I picked
again.
up a 2016
If they didn't
brochure.
break my heart,
not for
I'd
myself,
have to say that the
but
last
for
two
Holly.
photos were probably
Upon
the
arriving
best of their
home,
type
she sat
I
in
had
the
ever
lounge,
seen, nursing a
I
coffee
read the text
and looking
accompanying
pale.
Roberto Milan's
I
report.
removed my jacket
Sorry,
and tossed my
I
bag
know that
onto
this
the
will
floor,
be hard on you.
preparing to enact
The collection
second
is
part
worth
of the
a
plan.
minimum of $300,000.
I expressed my love for Holly
more
and
likely
my desire for her to have the
$500,000.
best. The second to
declared
last
that I would
photo
trade in
alone
her car
would bring
and buy her a new
$125,000
2017
model
to
pointing to it in the brochure.
$175,000 if
Expressing
sold
her
separately.
enthusiasm, she exclaimed
The last
that she
two
loved the
photos
new car.
are the best
Unaware of my
execution
plan
of Romano
she acknowledged
Abilita
my ability
Artistica
to make her
effects in
feel
history,
better, mentioning
not
the
just
only
in my
hiccup
opinion,
being that they
but
already
in that
had a
of at
buyer
least
for my
4
other
other
appraisers and
She
art
proposed
critics
taking it
that
to
I
the
overheard
dealership
talking
by
about
Friday
them.
afternoon.
I asked
leaving
Gina
work
if any
early
were
for the
sale.
task.
She put me
She
in touch with
suggested
the
I
owner
use her car for the
Capiero's
weekend
to visit
not
my lovers,
surprisingly,
causing
Laura.
her to recoil at the
Laura
final
said
remark.
they weren't for sale
A
at
look
the
of
present
shock
time
and confusion
because they
crossing
were
her face.
priceless. And the
Inquiring
floor
about
where
what was
she
wrong,
completely end off
I prompted her
would
to
not be
address the
sold until
situation.
after her pass away.
She mentioned nothing specific,
I wouldn't want the
but
general
asked if I
public,
was still
and
upset about our
especially my
arrangement.
husband, seeing
I
me like that
clarified
while I'm alive.
that it was not
she
our
said,
arrangement,
but
but
rather
rather my
hers,
husband, with a laugh,
emphasizing that I had no
Update.
say in it.
I questioned
I
if
sent
I had
the
no
digital
choice but to
recording of
accept
Grace's
words,
hoping
along
for a
with
response.
Roberto's photos and words.
She simply
via
nodded,
email to my
appearing
attorney
as if she
Gail
had
Schiff.
asserted her dominance.
She
and I had
contacted me at
surrendered.
7:30 on the morning
Despite
of
the
17th.
circumstances,
She
I
declared
conveyed
that she
that my
loved me,
petition for divorce
expressing
was
genuine
clearly
concern.
justified,
I said
citing
nothing in
infidelity,
reply and walked
I
off into the
informed her
kitchen that a law enforcement
my phone
officer
began to
would
ring,
serve Laura
so
the
I headed out
following
to the
night
back
at the
garden
gala.
to take the call.
I added, Toby
There's one
confirmed
thing
that
I
the
need
money
to
had been
add,
transferred and mentioned that I would
I was
drop
good
it
to
off
go the next
so she
day.
could include it when
Without
expressing
delay,
it to the process
I entered
server
the bank
along
and
with
was
the
shown
divorce
into the
papers.
mortgage
specialist's office.
I handed an envelope
An hour later,
addressed to Angela
the mortgage was
to
paid
Gail.
off, and
It
all my
contained a
remaining
letter
accounts
from
were
me,
closed.
a swab
I
from
walked
the
a few
Italian
doors down
janitor's cheek
and opened a new account with
container
another
with a
bank.
new swab
I was
and
content,
an envelope
knowing
with
I wouldn't
express
have to
mail
pay anything
postage
again
addressed to
unless
a
Holly
DNA
pursued
lab
legal action
accompanied by
and took me to
instructions.
court. The letter
My
to
smile
Angela
faded.
conveyed the message
The
that
next
if there was
day,
any
I
hope for a
contacted the
future
land
relationship
registry
between
and
us,
completed the
she needed
appropriate
to swab
online
the inside of
application.
her cheek,
Place
with
it
all
in
the
the
details
envelope
of
addressed
Toby
to
and
the
Sarah's
DNA
new
lab
company
with my
within
swab
10
already
minutes of
in it,
applying,
and send
I
it via
received a
express
confirmation
mail.
email stating it
The
would
lab
take
had
3 to 5
instructions
days
to
to mail the
complete.
results directly
Once
to
done,
her at school.
I would simply
and
hand
to
over
me.
the deeds to
I
Toby,
emphasized
and
that
he could
even if
register
she
the
didn't
property
desire
to
a
his
future
company.
relationship,
That same
she
day,
still needed
I
to
knocked on
comply.
Jack's door.
If
Olivia
she
was
didn't,
with him,
I made
as
it clear
usual.
that I would ensure
Fridays
our
were typically
finances
when
were
he
tied
had his
up
way
for
with her,
years, and I believe
leaving
I
her to say
interrupted
goodbye
their
to
closeness
tuition,
activities,
room and board.
She left us alone, and expenses
Placing
for the
my
end of her
resignation on
junior
his
year.
desk,
He looked
and
up
her
at me
senior
with that
year
stupid
at the
smirk on his
expensive
face.
private college
He
she
inquired
attended.
about the document in my hands.
I pointed out that
I
even if
replied
her
that it was
feelings
my
towards me
resignation
matched her
and
past
expressed the
actions
belief
and
that
inactions,
leaving immediately
it was in her
would be best,
self-interest to do as I
considering the
asked.
situation with
I
our
mentioned
families.
that Grace had already complied.
I suggested that
The
he
letter
might
was
not
signed,
want me around
"Your
for too
father,
long.
Grant
He appeared
Oster."
dumbstruck by the
I
news.
was glad that I wasn't
I
there when the
boldly
reality
requested
hit
that
my
my
P45
P45
on my
be ready
birthday.
by Monday,
And
the
the
process
process
server
not
reported to
mentioning
Gail
my departure
that Laura
to anyone
and Angela
Holly
were
didn't
all
know.
smiles.
He
As
pleaded
they hobnobbed
pathetically,
with the public
insisting
at about
that they
9
needed me.
p.m. on the 18th.
I countered by saying
They were
apparently
perplexed
needed his
when
nephew
they were
more.
handed the envelopes
I
by the
informed
law
him that I would
enforcement
return on
officer
Monday
as
to
the
collect the
process
last of
server
my
with him
things.
took photos.
Discreetly,
They opened up
I
the
pretended to
envelopes
drop
on the
a pin
spot.
from my pocket.
The law
Using
enforcement
the
officer
opportunity
left
to remove a
but the
digital
process
recorder
server
from my
stayed
sock.
behind, taking
Constructing
more
a
photos
pin for it,
until he was
I hit
kicked out.
record
And
the
discreetly
photos
placed
he
it
emailed
under
to
the
Gail
seat and
Gail
into
to
the
me
wooden frame as
showed
I stood
Laura
back
sinking
up,
lower and lower onto the
concluding
ground,
the conversation,
ultimately landing
I
in a
mentioned
fetal
having
position
things to do,
and
Angela
left his
first
office.
distraught, then
As a
angry,
parting shot,
and then
I
trying
told
to
him
tend
not
to
to
her
come
prone
crawling
mother.
back when he's broke.
Angela called me the
suggesting
morning
that
of the
the only
19th,
thing keeping his
after
cheating
expressing
wife
her
with him
disgust
was
with
his
the way
money.
I handled
I
serving
smiled
the papers
shivers,
knowing that
I
it hit a
responded
nerve.
strongly.
Turning,
I
I
left
left
his
his
office.
office. Never used
An hour
with her
later,
before.
I drove home,
expressing that it was
picked up
tough,
Holly's car
and she
and
should
logbook
tell it to someone
and
who
dropped
cares.
off her car at the
Following
dealership.
this,
She stated
John
that she
Reeves
wasn't
kindly
inclined
offered
to do
to
the
drive
DNA
me home,
test, and I
In a
accepted gratefully.
sarcastic tone,
When I got
questioned
home that
whether
night,
she didn't want to
Holly
find
was
out
sitting at
who
the
her
kitchen table
biological
with big
father
red
is,
bags under her
as
eyes.
opposed to the one who
I
has
knew
been
she had been
supporting her
crying.
all these years.
I asked her what happened.
She replied,
Reluctantly,
affirming that
she told me
I am
she
her
had
father.
contracted gonorrhea.
In response,
I laughed.
expressed uncertainty,
Did I
stating
laugh?
that maybe I
She
am,
just glared at me.
maybe not.
He suggested
However,
taking
I
the
emphasized
medication
that
to
one
get back
thing
to
is
normal. and
I've
the
already
tension
instructed
in the air
my
was
attorney
palpable.
to freeze all of her
That
mother's
night,
and my
for
accounts.
the first time in
I
months,
assured her
I slept
that there
well.
would be no money for her
The next
education
morning, I
or
slept
living
in the spare
expenses,
room
since
and
she's
felt
20 years old
refreshed.
in the future.
The good night's
unless she
sleep had
mails
done
that
wonders
envelope
for
with
me.
her cheek swab.
I entered our bedroom
Now
and
that I
gently
think
woke
of it,
Holly. I mentioned to
explaining
her
that
that
I
I
would
would
give
need
her
a video
videos
of
to
her
rest
swabbing
and
her cheek,
recuperate,
putting it
Holly
in the
expressed
envelope,
a belief
and
that I
mailing
found
it
her
all at the
disgusting,
same time,
to which I remained
in order
silent.
to believe her.
Tears started
This
streaming
was
down
due
her
to the
cheeks
lies she
as
had
she
told me
admitted
over
to
the
messing up
years.
big time.
I emphasized
She
that I
professed her
hadn't
love for
lied
me
to her,
and expressed
she
a desire
retorted,
for me to get
pointing
better.
out that I hadn't told
Initially,
the whole truth.
I felt
as my
sympathy
sister
for her,
would have her tuition
but it
paid.
vanished quicker than
I
expected.
expressed my
That
displeasure,
surprised me,
stating that she
It
dawned
seemed to
on
be
me
as
then
unpleasant as
that
her
I had
mother,
lost all
and I had
affection
no
for the
intention
woman
of
I'd been
wasting
married
time
to for
discussing
21
further,
years. Because
Could
it
love
disgusted
truly
me.
fade away so swiftly?
I gave her an ultimatum.
Apparently so.
Either do as
because
I
I was
say
done,
and email
and her
me the
situation
video,
did nothing
or
to
this
sway
would
me.
be the last
I left the
conversation
room
we ever had in
without
her
saying
life.
a word.
After
I
that,
got into my
I
car
forcefully
and
hung up
drove
the
off
phone.
contentedly.
It's
That
satisfying
night,
to
I
have a
stayed with
landline
Toby
where
and Sarah,
slamming the phone
who
down
hosted a
makes a
dinner party
statement,
with many friends
unlike
and
a cell
colleagues
phone where
present.
pushing the red
When I
button
returned home
provides
late
no
Sunday morning,
emphasis.
I found Holly up
The
doing
mother
chores.
did not attempt to call me
Walking
from
into
the
the lounge,
18th to the
she rushed
21st.
towards me and
She
hugged
likely
me when she
delayed
saw
her
me.
return to
I
Columbus
simply
for 2
patted her on the
days,
back.
consoling herself with her
Excitedly,
close friend
I
Gina.
suggested arranging for the new
The
car to
excitement
arrive,
at the exhibition
offering
on
to
the
drop her off
18th
in
made
town
its
to
way
meet
into
her
2
sister,
local Chicago
who could
papers,
then drive her to the
complete with a
dealership.
photo of Laura,
I envisioned her
seemingly
driving back
provided
in
by
the
the
new
process
Range Rover,
server.
and she smiled,
Amid the urge to
approaching me
expel
with
my
open
stomach
arms.
contents, I
Turning
found some
back to the
amusement.
kettle, I
It
pretended
was
not to
apparent
notice
that
her.
Laura had visited the house,
Throughout the
which
day,
I no longer
Holly
considered a
displayed
home,
excessive
on the
affection,
22nd.
making me feel
I deduced
uncomfortable.
this as the envelope
She
I had left on the
persistently
new
tried
front
to
door,
kiss or hug me,
reinforced with
but I kept
steel
finding
and a
excuses to
changed
leave.
lock, similar to the
bedtime, I
side and
noticed
rear
she had been
doors,
crying
had
again.
vanished. My
Wishing her
attorney's
good night,
message on my cell
she
phone
inquired if
indicated
I would
the
be
need
sleeping
for
with her,
discussion.
and
The
expressed a
envelope
desire
was
to
addressed
cuddle
to
up
Vile
and hear
Ducking Slot,
reassurances.
an assumption I
Feeling
believed
nothing,
Laura would
I
recognize.
responded that it wouldn't
My brief
happen until
message
she got
inside
the all clear
conveyed,
from the
"Hey,
doctor.
contact your
I
attorney
firmly
regarding
asserted
the
that she
retrieval
made
of
her
your
bed,
personal belongings.
to which she retorted
The sooner
bitterly,
we sell the
stating
house
that
and
when she got
conclude our
better,
sham of a
she was
marriage,
sure
the
she
better.
could find a man
I'll
willing to be
resist
in bed
any
with her,
attempt by
as
you
she
to
had
return to
plenty
this
of
house
lost time
until
to
it is
make up
sold.
for.
Consider
I
doing
chuckled to
something
myself.
decent for
It
once
took
in our
longer than
farcical
expected,
relationship,
but there it
and
was,
don't resist it.
and the harshness
Even
was
though
back.
economic
All
reasons
the
seem to
regrets
be
from
your
Friday
sole
night had
motivation,
vanished,
given your
leaving
lack
behind
of love or
21 years
respect
of
for me,
resentment.
your formerly
In the
clueless
past,
ex,
I would have
Grant.
fallen for her manipulations.
P.S. The doors are
But this
booby-trapped.
time, I
Any
ignored her tears
unauthorized
and headed
entry
for the
will
spare
start
room.
all of your
It
previous
would be my
family
last
albums
night
on
in my
fire.
house, and it would be in the spare
It
room.
required a court appearance by
also
the
relieved
attorneys
she
for
said
something
those
to be
things.
worked out with
It
respect
erased
to
any
living
lingering
arrangements.
doubts I might have had.
I probably could have
As I
gotten
looked at my
exactly what I
doctored
wanted
picture
if
of
I
her
didn't
and my
put that
sisters,
P.S. on the
all
note
I
to the
felt was
slot,
hatred for
but
her.
I couldn't help myself.
She was only sweet when she
We
wanted
finally,
something, and
through
nasty
our
when she
attorneys,
didn't get it.
agreed to both vacate
I
the
woke
house
early Monday
and
morning.
immediately put it
Holly
on the
was up
market
early too,
with
for
the
her
amount of our
8:30 hair
temporary
appointment.
housing expenses
So I drove her into
considered in
town
the
as
division
planned.
of assets.
I drove off, knowing it could be the
Laura
last
tried
time
to
I
be
ever saw her.
difficult in the monetary
I feared it wouldn't be,
negotiations,
but I was
she had no
determined to make it
bargaining
so.
power because she
On the way, I
acquired her
called the
precious
mobile phone
photographs
company
from
and
Piero
terminated
while
both
we
our
were still
contracts.
married.
Pulling over into a
When I
lay-by,
demanded
I
5
paid the penalty
photographs,
on my card.
she could choose one,
They informed me
then
that
me,
the phones would
etc.,
remain in service
until all 10 were
5
divvied up.
p.m. Perfect.
According to her attorney,
Next, I
she
headed
got
to the
hysterical,
office to pick up my P45.
especially since by that time she
I
had
stepped
seen
into
how
the
I had
factory,
doctored the family
greeted
photo
by
albums.
a somber atmosphere.
At Laura's
Word
insistence,
of my
we took
departure seemed
Roberto's
to have
appraisal
spread,
of the photographs,
briefly eliciting
one
looks
done
of
by
fear
an
from my
appraiser
colleagues.
hired by her,
Unsure
and
of the
one by a
reason
neutral
behind their
appraiser.
unease, I made my way down the corridor
Roberto's
toward
was
my
the
office,
lowest one,
passing by the
costing her
coffee machine where the usual
$200,000
group
more
was
than if she
gathered.
had accepted his appraisal.
Uncertain if Max and Henry
Since this
were
was
aware of their
seriously
shared
cutting into what
involvement
she would
with
end
my
up
wife.
with, she
They
offered
grinned
me
at me,
2 of the photographs
exchanging jokes with
that she
others.
chose.
I greeted them
However,
with false
she
cheer,
rescinded that
saying
offer
good
when
morning.
I had my
They
attorney
asked
tell
about my
hers
wife,
that I agreed,
prompting the
as
usual
long as she
laughter
had
at the
them delivered
recurring
to the
joke,
local
which I
firing
failed
range,
to find
and she
amusing.
watched what I did
I
to
replied
them.
that she wasn't doing
When
well,
all was said and done,
attributing it
by
to
the
one of
time
them
the
giving
divorce
her an
proceedings had
unwelcome
concluded,
surprise.
Laura
I
was
left
left
them
with
in
her
stunned
personal
silence,
possessions,
and when I
half the
glanced
furniture,
back,
and one
their
quarter
jaws
of
had
the
dropped,
sale price of the
leading
house.
to a commotion
Nothing else,
before I headed
including
upstairs.
no alimony, but a
Approaching
suspended
Olivia,
jail sentence.
she offered a
More
half
about
smile
that later.
and lowered her head.
We did
Perhaps
agree to jointly
indicating
pay
that I
all
was
of the
now
college
earning some
expenses
respect.
of Grace and
Jack
Angela
appeared
until
at
they
the door
graduated,
before I could knock.
but nothing
He
more than
asserted
that.
that he had what I
As
wanted,
for Angela and
instructing
Grace,
me to
as
take it and
expected,
get out.
the DNA
Perhaps
results
that
came back
respect
that
was
they were
merely my
not my
imagination.
biological daughters.
Entering
That
his office,
infuriated
I
Laura
sat
so
down,
much that she
discreetly
almost
slipping
had a
a
stroke.
recorder into my pocket
I
from
talked
under
to Grace
the chair.
about it, not
I knew
Angela,
he'd had his
who
usual
had
Friday
complied with my
rendezvous
request
with Olivia,
solely to get her
and
college
now
expenses
I had it
paid,
recorded.
and apparently was
He
happy
snapped,
with no future
inquiring
relationship
if I
with
had
me.
another job lined up.
My daughter conveyed that her mother
Initially
claimed
ignoring
the
him,
DNA
I
test
relented
results were
and replied
incorrect.
that I had nothing lined
According
up.
to her, Mom
smirk
asserted
played
that
across
during
his
her
face,
marriage to me,
likely
she
assuming
never
I
had
would
any
come
close
crawling back.
relations with anyone
I
other than
inquired
me
about
and
my
Piero.
final month's pay and end-of-year
Additionally,
bonus,
she
to
insisted
which
that she
he
never
burst
even
into
met
laughter.
Piero before our daughter
Olivia
was born.
entered with my P45.
I responded by questioning
and when
why,
she asked
if that
what
were
was
the case,
amusing,
our daughter's
Jack
father had
explained that I had
Italian
requested
ancestry
my
like
bonus
Piero,
and pay,
while my
finding it
family
rich.
lineage is
Olivia
entirely
chimed
Dutch
in,
on both
laughing
sides.
along.
I
Deciding to
expressed
join
my
in,
skepticism,
I responded with
highlighting
laughter,
that her mother has
causing them
proven to be a
pause and stare
pathological
at me
liar throughout
incredulously.
our more than
Olivia
24-year
questioned
relationship,
why I was laughing, and I
deceiving me
retorted,
about her love for
asking
me.
her why she let the old
Despite
man
all
take
this,
advantage of her
she
every
mentioned that
week.
her mother desired
My
another
laughter
DNA
intensified,
test.
and they froze.
I explained to my
with
children
Olivia's
that the
eyes
DNA test
widening
wasn't
as
going
Jack
to happen
flushed
since
with
they were
rage.
not minors,
In response
and
to
it was
Jack's
unrelated
anger,
to the
he
divorce.
spat out,
I
calling me a
clarified that I
scoundrel
merely
and
wanted to know
instructing
the
me to
truth
get
in
out
my
of his
mind,
office and his
and I
company
wanted
before
both of
he
them
had
to
the
be
boys
aware of it.
drag me out
I
by my
reminded them
ears.
that they witnessed me
Chuckling,
swabbing my
I
cheek,
exited,
putting the
collecting
swab
the
in the
last of my
envelope,
belongings
and
from
then
my
mailing
office.
it.
Still
In
laughing
response
to
to my
myself,
daughter's request,
I arrived home.
I mentioned that her
unloaded the
mother's
back
desire
seats,
for a
opened the
face-to-face
trunk,
conversation
and entered the house.
wasn't something I would
Surveying the
entertain.
rooms,
I
I
informed
pondered
them
what
that
to
I
take with
instructed
me.
my attorney to
Retrieving
ignore
a
her
few
repeated
Romero
requests.
Brito artworks,
I
I
questioned
wrapped them in
why I
plastic
would have
found
any
in the
reason
garage
to engage in a
and loaded them
conversation
into
with
my
her.
car.
My daughter
I went
pleaded
around
with
the
me
house
not to use
collecting various
derogatory
items,
terms
then
for her
emptied
mother,
my wardrobe
and expressed
upstairs.
her continued love
I
for her
secured
despite
all my
her
important
faults.
paperwork,
She asked
including
me
the
as a
girl's
favor
birth
to
certificate
talk with her for
and
an
my
hour.
wedding certificate.
I conveyed
from
to
the
Grace
safe.
that I couldn't comply with her
Utilizing
request.
a loft ladder,
While I
I
had
retrieved
forgiven
my
her
old
and
belongings,
desired to maintain a
including my
relationship
degree
with her,
and family
I
photos.
made it clear that there was
In the
nothing,
master bedroom,
absolutely
I gathered all the
nothing
jewelry I had
that would
gifted
lead
Holly
me to
over the
engage in a
years,
conversation
totaling
with her
over
mother.
£10,000
in value. I also took
Now
all the
for Laura's
handbags,
suspended
shoes,
jail sentence
and expensive
and getting
coats I had
only
purchased.
1/4 of the
In fact,
proceeds of the sale
entire
of the house.
wardrobe was my acquisition.
After my phone
So I claimed
conversation
it all.
with Grace about the DNA
Given my
test
meticulous
and
record
Laura's
keeping
desire
for
for a
insurance
talk with me,
purposes,
she did
it would
something
prove
stupid.
beneficial when
I
selling
thought
everything.
that she might pull something.
After finishing
so I hooked
packing,
up and walked
I
around with a
realized
panic
I needed
button
TV,
connected directly
so I
to a
grabbed
private
that
security
along with
company.
my movie collection.
One
and
night,
the Blu-ray
a
player.
woman knocked on the door
By
of the
now,
condo
my
that
car
I
was
was
too
renting
full.
during the divorce
I decided to ditch all
until
of
the
Holly's
final
clothes
financial
and a
details
few
were
other
worked out.
unnecessary items.
I didn't see the two
including
big
some
guys
of my old clothes.
and Laura,
a new
standing out to the side when I looked
and
through
the
the
girls
peephole.
would gladly help
As
me
soon
out.
as I opened the door,
I gathered
the two
the
big
best
guys
pictures
burst
of me
in
and
and
the
grabbed
girls,
me,
but
and
not
packed
before
them
I
in the
pushed
car.
my silent panic
No
button.
real rush.
After
since
being
Holly wouldn't
forcefully
be back
seized,
until after
they
2
pulled me to a
p.m.
chair and
took a moment
secured
for
me
a
to
cup
it,
of tea
while Laura came
a
in
must-have,
and the other woman
I
departed.
believe it's in the Magna Carta.
Laura expressed
called the
regret
TV
for
company
resorting to
and
such
canceled
measures,
the satellite
attributing
phone
it
and
to
internet.
my refusal to
Also
meet with her
contacted
and
British
redo
Gas
the
and
DNA
Southern
test,
Water to
which
cancel
she insisted
utilities.
was incorrect.
It would take a few days.
Following this,
but I didn't
she
care.
initiated a conversation
Returned to the
with some
bedroom and
upbeat
sat on the bed
remarks,
when I
claiming
noticed
she
something
always
that
loved
sparked
me
an idea,
and asserting
one
that her
that scared
affection
even
extended
me.
to Piero as well.
Holly's wedding dress
She contended
sat at the
that
top
her
of the
heart was
wardrobe
expansive
in a
enough
dusty old
to
box.
encompass love
She
for
loved
both of
it,
us.
probably more
She
than
realized that we were
Took
past
it down
the point of
and found
reconciliation,
our wedding album,
but just
among
wanted
the
to get
box of
things off her
photographs
chest.
on the bed.
As
Grabbed
she was
the duvet
talking to me,
cover,
she was
gathered
holding
everything
a swab up
and headed to the
Obviously,
garden.
she was
Dumped
going to
everything
force a
into
DNA
a pile,
sample
including
from me.
Holly's clothes and
It
belongings
really irritated
I
her
sell.
that I made no verbal
Left her underwear
response whatsoever
untouched,
to
didn't
anything
want any
that she
reminders.
said. I
Closed up the
refused
car
to even
and checked the
acknowledge her
time.
presence,
Only
trying my
1:45
best to
p.m.
avoid
called
all
up
eye
Robert
contact,
Williams
and told him I'd
Fortunately,
drop off my
as she was
P45
about to have
later
her
with the
two
night
goons
shift,
pry my
eager
mouth
to
open
start
for a
fresh
DNA
tomorrow.
swab,
He seemed
there was a
pleased,
response to my
and I
panic
hoped I
button.
brightened his day.
The security
At
company
2
had
p.m.,
called the
I
police.
sat waiting
and
for the
3
call,
cops with
found
weapons
some
drawn,
paint thinners in the
barged
garage
into the house
and poured it all
They
over
found
the
me
wedding
tied up
dress in the garden.
and one of the miscreants
Just
had
as I was
illegal
about to light
items
the
in
fire,
his pants pocket.
my phone rang. I explained the
answered calmly,
situation,
and
the
Holly's
cops
voice
ignored
came
Laura's
through the
plea
phone,
to simply let them
demanding
go.
to know what was
They
going
meant no
on.
damage. I
And they
replied
arrested the
sarcastically,
3 of them,
asking her what she
the
meant.
little kidnapping event
Insisting
didn't play
that
well
I
with the
shouldn't play
judge in
dumb.
our divorce
She
proceedings.
continued to question me.
After she let it be
I
known
asked
that
her to calm
if she
down
had to rule, it
and
would be
inquired
really
about
bad
what
for
was
Laura.
happening. I got the division of assets and other considerations
heavy
set
breathing
forth above, and what sounded
The
like her
criminal court
sister
took
in the
pity
background.
on Laura since it was her first
She
offense.
mentioned that she had been
got a
told
2-year
I didn't get her a
suspended
new
sentence,
car and a
but sold hers
$10,000
instead.
fine, which was from her
Teasingly,
share alone
I
of the
mentioned
marital
that I might have
assets.
forgotten to mention
The
that.
two guys didn't fare
She
as
started
well
to sound
because
panicked,
they had shady
asking
histories.
what was going on.
One got a year in prison
Remaining
before
calm
parole
despite
was
my
possible,
racing heart,
and the
I
one with
informed
the
her that
illegal
from now
items
on,
got 5 years
if she
before
wanted a
parole
car,
was possible.
she could pay for it
Part
herself.
4 of my plan did
She
not
yelled in
end when
response,
the divorce was
expressing
final.
confusion
Although
and
I will not
frustration.
admit here or
I
anywhere else
reiterated
that I had
she heard me
anything
just
to do with
fine
it.
and added that I needed
Just
to tidy
karma
up the kitchen.
is what I
She
always
questioned
respond
if it
when
was
asked
some
about
kind
it.
of sick joke, to
18
which I
months
said
after
nothing.
the divorce was
She
final,
declared that we
I
would
was on a
talk about
cruise
it
of
when
the
she got
Caribbean
home,
with a
expressing
32-year-old
her
dissatisfaction with
divorcee
being pranked,
who loved to be
I
treated
remained
right
silent.
and richly.
I hung up the
She
phone
looked too
amidst
much like
her
Laura
continued
at that
screams
age
of my name
and was too hot
Stepping
for me to look for a
outside,
permanent
I struck a
relationship
match
with her.
and ignited
but
the
she was
fire.
fun to be with,
Our
even
history
though
went
she
up
wore
in
me out
flames as
dating.
I walked away.
While I was
retrieving
our marriage certificate from
Laura's
my
apartment
pocket,
was broken
I tore it
into while she was
shreds
at work
and left it on the
place
kitchen
was
table.
trashed.
Alongside
Some
a lone
items were
photograph
stolen
of
during
us
a
at
break-in,
Disneyland,
including the
capturing
second most
happier
provocative
times.
and valuable
I
Romano
wondered if
photo
she
of
reminisced
Laura.
fondly about those
More
moments
items were
too.
destroyed than stolen, however,
Sliding into my car,
including 7
I
of
drove
the other
off.
8 remaining Romano
Approaching
photos
the end of the street,
and all of the family
I glimpsed
photo
Holly
albums.
and Jennifer in my
Upon my
rearview
return,
mirror,
rushing
I became
into
the
the
house
house
without a glance
While
upward.
it was impossible for
With
me
a
to have
smile,
committed the crime
I powered
myself
off my phone
since I
and
was on a
drove
boat
on.
2,000
By
miles
4
away.
p.m.,
I
Laura
reached
insisted
Sutton,
to the cops,
decided
that
I
I
had
paid
time.
someone to
I
carry it
visited
out.
a nearby phone shop
As soon
to
as
set
the
up a
cops
new
approached
approached
me
me
and
and hinted that I was a suspect.
Additionally,
I
caught the
refused to
admin
talk
team
to
at
them
work to
and
handle
sought
my
legal
P45
representation.
and met
After
Freya,
scrutinizing
my
my phone
secretary,
and financial
who,
records,
unlike Olivia,
which naturally
exuded
excluded the 2
professionalism
cashed-out
despite
bearer
her youth.
bonds that were never part
Returning
of the
to my
divorce
empty
estate,
flat,
I brewed
they
a cup
found
of
no
tea with a
evidence
kettle
that I
borrowed
could have
from
paid
home.
anyone for
I
the act.
unpacked and ordered pizza for dinner.
Furthermore, there was no
Checking my old
association
phone,
found with
I found
anyone
it disconnected.
capable of committing
A
such
smirk
deeds.
crossed my lips.
6
Knowing
months after
Holly
their
was now
initial
phoneless
contact
too,
with me,
affording
it
the
seemed
girls
that the
some
cops
respect
practically
before my
gave up.
inevitable contact.
Even though I am sure that Laura
Setting up my
continued
sleeping
to
bag
pester
in the
them.
lounge, I awaited
Once
dinner.
the statute of limitations
Furniture would
expired,
arrive over the weekend.
I threw a party.
But for now,
It's
I
all
relished
finally
the distance
over
from
celebration.
Holly. Attended
Switching on
mostly
my
by
laptop,
friends, I accessed
my parents were
recordings
no
from
longer
Jack
alive,
Walker's office,
but my brother,
revealing
his wife,
his affair with
my 2
Olivia.
nephews, my
After
new love
uploading
interest.
the evidence,
I
Melody,
made copies
Melody's
on
2
USB
adult
sticks,
children,
and
addressing
Grace,
them to
her
Jack's
husband,
wife, Margaret,
and my granddaughter
and
were
Olivia's
present.
boyfriend, Peter.
I have had no relationship
I planned
with
to mail
Angela,
them the
was
next
not
day.
invited to her wedding,
Lastly,
and
I
wouldn't have
phoned my
attended
daughter
even
Sophie
if
to
invited.
update her.
I learned from
Cautioning
Grace
against
that
informing
Angela's
her mother
husband
of
caught
my
her
whereabouts
cheating,
when
when
she
she
is in
hadn't
the
done
early
yet,
stages
given
of divorce
Holly's lack of
proceedings.
communication means.
Laura gave Grace an ultimatum.
Over the following week,
either sever
I
all
furnished
ties
my
with
flat
me or
and
with
began
her.
diverting customers
To everyone's
from Walker
surprise,
Engineering,
including
to Sutton.
mine,
Grace
despite a
chose
few
me,
loyal to Jack,
likely because
most
she was
preferred our
convinced that
offerings,
Laura was,
leading to
as
Walker's
I had
loss.
represented, a
I
pathological
anticipated
liar.
Jack's discovery of the
More
reason for his
importantly,
business decline.
Grace recognized
but
the
remained
negativity
indifferent.
of her mother,
With
throwing her
utilities cut off at
relationship
my
with her
former
paramour
home.
in her daughter's
Holly would
face,
realize my
and having them
absence as
lie
she
to cover
struggled
up her
with bills.
cheating.
Toby
Grace
initiated
didn't want her
the
children
home sale
exposed to
process,
that attitude.
backed by Sarah's enthusiasm.
Only one thing has
and by
caused
week's
friction
end,
between Grace and
signs
me
adorned
in the
the
last
property.
5 years.
During this time,
I disclosed the
Ava
truth about the
contacted
DNA
me,
testing,
revealing Holly's
she was
relocation
initially
to her
upset with
parents'
me, but
home,
forgave me,
where disapproval
just as I
lingered
forgave
over
her for her
infidelity.
duplicity over the years.
Holly seethed
She was
with
actually
rage
very
toward me,
pleased
which oddly
that I was her
gratified me,
biological father,
though I knew the saga
and I had
wasn't
another
over.
DNA test
By
done
the weekend,
to provide
Toby and
additional
Sarah
confirmation.
hosted another successful dinner party, offering a moment of respite from my escape plan. Sunday brought promising news. After just a week on the market, I received 2 serious offers for £550,000, one of which